and that is that the poisons that we're all standing here to campaign against are actually poisonous. They mean it. It's written on the label. It says poisonous, and they are poison. And any really half-wit should be able to see that you don't go pouring it all over the food. Somehow, this society's been like a crab that's put in cold water that's slowly boiling, and it kind of gets a bit too late. It doesn't know when to get out of the pot because it heats up slowly. And look, I'm a young man getting younger every day because I'm in my wife Kelly's Age-Free Foundation. But in the time that we have been in farming, what has just been happening is every year more and more chemicals are sprayed on the land and on the food. And what's coming home to roost now are the results. It was always going to happen. You can't spray chemicals all over the land and all over the food and then genetically modify the food, so most of it, the genetically modified food, is sprayed with poisons, and what isn't has the poisons built into it, so you eat that in the food as well. And now it's in the blood of humans and the urine and the breast milk, and so is the GM toxin like BT. There should be absolutely no surprise. There's no surprise also that finally the World Health Organization and others are saying the bleedingly apparent that's on the label, it's poisonous. It always was, it was always going to happen. And there's a lot of lies and deception, and most people here know that's absolutely true. We've got to make sure that we really stay onto this, and glyphosate is under the gun now. I'm thrilled about it. It's the biggest selling chemical in the world, but we have to realise that we are fighting an absolutely evil group of companies, and their next steps, they know probably that glyphosate's got a limited time. They're probably not in some ways concerned, we've got to get rid of it, don't get me wrong, but the patent might expire and they'll go on to something else like 2,4-D and overspray food with that. We've actually really got to stay true to the whole journey and get really toxic poisons, which is pretty well all of them, out of agriculture. And that's the mission. Why do we need a Royal Commission? Well, we need a Royal Commission actually the same way a drug addict who's addicted to drugs needs some help to get non-addicted. And I'm sorry to hand the news over to anyone who doesn't realise this, but agriculture is addicted to poisons. Most farmers are like druggies. They don't want to be on drugs. I've known drug addicts who say when they're not on drugs, they don't want to use drugs, but they go back to drugs. And the fact is that agriculture is very set up for poisons now, and farmers are very addicted. And there's a reason, and it's not because it makes better food or safer food. The reason is it's very, very convenient. And as Kelly said, we do a more extensive presentation on this, but the nuts and bolts of why farmers love poisons is because it's very easy and fast to sow a paddock when you just go in and spray the whole thing, or an orchard, or whatever it is. You go and spray the whole thing, which kills all the grass. Then you can put your seeds in. You don't even really have to plough it up. You just put your seeds in, lots of fertiliser, the crop grows up. It doesn't take a lot of skill. It's a pretty simple chemistry experiment. The one thing I've never heard any farmer account for yet, not one, not any ag department, which has become by and large an advice agency for companies like Monsanto, is they have not accounted for the poisons. And this is the problem now, that all the poison use keeps building up, and it's accounting time, and it is the fact that it's now being found in the blood and in the waterways and everywhere. And my heart truly, goes out to, in a way, consumers, because many are innocent victims who believe that, really they believe that the government's looking after them. And the fact is they're not. Anyone who's read anything about this knows that the FDA in America, they hid the evidence from FDA scientists who were concerned about poisons, and they've been stopping at every turn the many scientists who are always coming out with evidence that the chemicals that are commonly used in agriculture are causing problems to test animals, whether it's Professor Seralini, Professor Carusco, the list just goes on and on and on. And I won't go on about that now, but I know that it's going to be consumers. I just don't feel that farmers have got the will to really take this on. They need help, and we need some help. We need a Royal Commission. We need a Royal Commission to help people And if we don't have it, our politicians will be failing people. And look, just a quick example of that is the latest scandal, and there's always another scandal, and there always will be while poisons are used, but just recently in the US you may be aware that suddenly glyphosate's being found in Quaker oats. I'm surprised it wasn't found earlier. I mean, of course it's in Quaker oats, they're growing with it, they're oversprayed with it, it's out of control. There's one final thing I want to say to people, and that is something we get a lot, and that is, okay, so we get rid of poisons in agriculture. Can organic agriculture feed the world? And I have absolutely no doubt that we can. In fact, I would go as far as to say intensive organic agriculture is the most productive agriculture in the world. And the note I wish to finish on is the fact that I often hear this thing from farmers and others, you know, we don't want starvation with organic agriculture. The opposite will be true. The bees are our indicator. If we keep allowing poisons to be sprayed, then what will happen is the very high potential of worldwide starvation, because we totally rely on these little creatures to pollinate a huge amount of our food, and the warning signs are all there. So I really thank you for this work. I really absolutely welcome you, Mick Murray, and the ALP, and I just pray that you will stay absolutely true to your word. I pray that you get into government and get this absolute deal with GM for starters, and then we can start cleaning up agriculture as well.
Yeah. Woo!